My name is Michael Thompson, and we're going to be talking about scales and how you apply them in various improvising situations. The first one we're going to talk about is a major pentatonic. Pentatonic is a 5-note scale made up of the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, and the 6 of the diatonic scale. It's 5 notes, and it can be used over a lot of chord situations. The first chord situation we're going to use it over is a basic C to F. You can use any of those notes using your ear in a melodic way over these changes, and it'll work. I change from a couple of different positions. One is based around the 5th fret. Then I move down to the 3rd fret to get the C, or you can get it here. Now we're going to try it in a musical example. Next, we're going to be adding the colors of bending and moving to a second position. To add to the vocabulary of just that same C pentatonic scale. By the way, all these patterns will be notated in the book, so you can check that. The notes that you bend are up to you, but the ones I bend are from the D up to the E, and from the G up to the A, and even from the C up to the D and down. So playing the straight notes and then bending, adding those together, and then moving from this position, which is the 5th position, up to the 8th fret, where it's another C position. You've widened the whole range of your improvising for this piece, which will be C, A minor, F, G. And this is how I played over those chords. Now we'll be adding 2 more notes, the 4 and the 7, to make a complete diatonic major scale. It sounds like this. That's a 7-note scale with an octave on C, which increases your note selection or choice immensely. And once again, you use your ear to let you know what fits. The next chord progression utilizes the whole major scale, and you'll see from the different colors that I used what notes you want to bring out for the different chords. The progression is C, E minor 7, F, and F over G. First, I'm going to solo using the scale, and listen to some of the colors that I bring out with the different notes I choose, and then I'm going to play rhythm and you try playing over those chords. Now I'm going to play rhythm, and you try soloing over those same chords. The next thing I'd like to talk about is what's called a 2-5 progression. It's the 2 minor 7 chord and the 5-7 chord of a major key. In this case, we're in the key of C, so it's a D minor 7 and a G7. To know what scale works over these two chords, you must determine what I call the target key, which is the major key that you're going into. You go D minor 7, G7, and you ask yourself, what is this the 5 chord of? And it's the 5 chord of the key of C. So the scale that works over both of those chords is the C major scale, bringing out the color notes that belong in those chords. In this case, D minor, you'd be working off the 4th, the F, the D, the A, and then the G7, you want to bring out the B, and then back to the C, where you want to lead back up to the tonic note. This is an example of me playing over these chords. For all the scales we're talking about, feel free to use the pentatonic, just the 5 notes, or add the other 2 color notes, or use bends, or any combination, and your ear to tell you what fits, because the point is to make it as melodic as you can, and you want to achieve a singing quality like a saxophone or a voice to create melodies. Scales are just your tools to play over chords, but they should never sound like a scale. They should be more of a singing quality that will make it more melodic and musical. The next thing we're going to talk about is the minor pentatonic, which is played exactly like the major pentatonic, except instead of the key of C, we'd be in A minor, same exact notes, but it takes on a whole new sound because you're in a minor key. In the first example, I'm going to use just the pentatonic scale with bends. Over a minor progression, and listen for that sound. next example, we're going to be using the same exact chord changes, but adding 2 more notes as we did in the major scale to create what's called the natural minor scale. The complete natural minor scale for A minor would be the 1, the 2, the minor third, the 4th, the 5th, the flat 6, the flat 7, and then a repeat of the root again, the A. The colorful notes in this scale are the 2nd and that flat 6. You should use your ear and see how you can use those over the chord changes. This is an example of me improvising using the complete natural minor scale. On the next progression, we're going to use the A minor and a D minor chord, but use a shuffle rhythm instead of the straight 8th note rhythm. The shuffle has a triplet undertone to it, which instead of dat 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 of the 8th note, it has a dat 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 triple feel that when you're soloing, you keep that in mind and you swing with that instead of you use more of a triplet. In this next example, I'm going to use bends, the natural minor scale, and the pentatonic minor scale, but with the shuffle rhythm, and this is how I play on it. Now we're going to use that same progression and that same shuffle feel and let you play along. Keep in mind that shuffle dat 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 with your playing and just flow with it. At this point, I'd like to introduce another minor scale called the harmonic minor. It can be used by itself over a static chord change of just A minor, or it can be used over a 5-7 chord in A minor, which would be E7. The scale is made up of the 1, the 2, the minor third, the 4, the 5, the flat 6, and the major 7th instead of the flat 7, the sharp 7, and then the root again. So the big difference between this and the natural minor scale is that sharp 7, because that is the third of the 5 chord. That's why it's good to use over that chord. This next progression involves A minor, D minor, and the 5-7 chord, E, which turns it around into A minor again. When I'm on the 5-7 chord, the E7 chord, I'll use the harmonic minor scale. And then back to the regular natural minor. And this is how it sounds with the band. Now I'd like to mention that with these scales, you can also use what's called the chromatic scale or chromatic tones, which are half steps that can link different notes that you're on together, even if it's as simple as a true chromatic scale is every half step up the neck. If you look at it like any of those notes are available to you to either link together different phrases or get you to another position, they're helpful to go from, say you're in the 5th position and you want to get up to the next position, you can use chromatics. Or even if you're on the 7th and you want to go down to the 5th, they're just very useful. You just need to use them in a musical way. Once again, using your ear to let you know which ones will work the best. Which brings us to the blues scale, probably the most popular and most used scale. It's not unlike the minor pentatonic scale, except we're adding one note, which is the flat 5, which would give you the root, minor 3rd, 4th, flat 5, regular 5, natural 5, flat 7, and the root again. The flat 5 is often thought of as a very bluesy note. It's usually bent to or slurred to, like. The blues scale is very important to get your bending together. A lot of the notes can be bent to achieve a singing, crying quality, and it should not be played just straight. Every note can be bent. There I was just slowly playing different bends that you can use, but that's where the blues comes from. It's all in the bend. The way I bend is I bend up to the note, hold it straight, and then put a little bit of a shake on it or a vibrato. That to me is the most human sound. And you can spend years developing this technique, and you can always get it smoother and more melodic. But most of what I use is the pentatonic minor, or with the blues note, which we're calling the blues scale. But I suggest listening to as many blues records as you can and sitting down and picking the licks up off them. They're all based on these same notes, though, the same scale. There's nothing any different. You can feel free to throw in chromatics, too. It's just all how you use it, how much emotion you put into it. In the next example, I've got a shuffle rhythm in the key of A, and I'm soloing over a blues progression, and then we're going to give you a chance to solo over it. Now we're going to run the same progression again, which is the A7, D7, A7, and then E7, or a blues progression. Try using the blues scale, and on the A7 chord, you can fool around with playing the major third, bending into it from the minor. Now here's your chance to have some fun with the blues scale. In the last musical example, we're going to try to combine most of the scales we've talked about today. The regular natural minor, the harmonic minor, the major scale, pentatonic, blues scale. It's all based off of C minor. The chords in the progression are F minor 7, B flat 7, E flat major 7, A flat major 7, D minor 7 flat 5, G7, and C minor. Now it sounds like a lot of chords, but if you stay within the C minor scale, you can play over all of them. And one other point I'd like to bring out is, as you're playing, try to analyze the note you're playing's relationship to the chord you're playing over. For instance, F minor 7, if you're playing the A flat, it's the minor third of that chord. On the next chord, B flat 7, the D becomes the third of that chord. On the next chord, E flat major 7, that D, same note, is now the major 7th. And listen to the color change from to... It's a good idea to know the relationship of the note you're playing to the chord that's being played underneath it. I'm going to keep that in mind as I improvise over these chords. We've covered a lot of ground here, but if you use these scales and some of the techniques I've talked about and use your ear and practice real hard, trying to retain a vocal quality to your playing, it'll all come together for you. Some books are going to be mentioned at the end of this video that I think are real helpful for your playing. Take note, and see you next time.